Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're breaking down, surprisingly, the most intense team play weapon in Helldivers 2. The M-1000 Maxigun is Freedom's bullet hose and reps the highest democracy per second in the entire game, but the entire time you try and use it, it's trying to kill you. And while I was trying to figure out the best way to synergize it with other things and how to make the most out of it, the more that I played with it, the more I was reminded of our old airburst rocket launcher technology.
Wait, it owns! This is so good! What the f? Nobody's gonna believe me!
Take him down! Oh!
Yo!
Back then, we had to swap backpacks and have a third person feeding ammo using a ridiculous amount of team synergy to activate its full potential, and later we mastered running it as a two-man team, and that's the same thing we've done here today with the new minigun. So lighting this off before anything else, we have to talk about its greatest weakness, because without understanding this, you'll end up in the middle of an undemocratic spit roast. Now, when you start shooting, you have a small windup, then you enter this weird braced animation that locks you down in place, and you can't move or dive out of this at all. This lets even voteless scum come slap you silly while you flop on the ground like a fish, and if anything gets in your face, your weapon also points straight up in the air, so 50% of the time, 100% of the time that you're spam flopping, as long as you keep blasting, you have a pretty high chance to mulch whatever's in front of you, but the biggest tip for not being totally doomed in the animation lock is to burst fire more often instead of holding it down. And look, I know it's insanely fun to maintain a strong stream, but there's a time and a place for that, and you need to learn the timing for when you can dive with it. So all you need to do is stop shooting and attempt to move in any direction. The second that your character twitches is when you can dive, so make sure you keep your head on a swivel to give yourself as much time as possible to make a decision well before anything gets to you. If you see things like meatballs, hulks, or chargers coming at you, your instant reaction needs to be to gas them, so that way you can just hit their weak spots, because the minigun hands out some of the most devious backshots in the entire game. I'm serious, it blows them out instantly with a very interesting stat line. Shooting at 1500 rounds per minute, we have 80 damage with 18 durable, which seems pretty low, but it also has level 3 medium penetration, with the most restricting thing about the weapon being the 750 ammo cap, which means that you won't have enough ammo to keep blasting between resupplies, and oddly enough, the M-1000 Maxigun doesn't really have anything that's actually 1000 on it, and that's why it's super important that you always think about position over anything else. Another one of the biggest problems you'll run into is if you're on an even playing field with your enemies, these disgusting dissidents employ space magic to have larger corpse hitboxes. This means you won't be able to shoot around them and blast their friends very easily unless you have the high ground, and that should always be your number one priority, is to go take it as fast as possible whenever you lock this thing in. This is also where we dive deeper into our build for synergies to help play around some of these negatives and try and make the most out of the minigun. So to bring out its true potential on the squids and the bugs, Gas Strike is our artificial choke maker for when we're out in an open field. That way you can just prioritize blasting whatever makes it past, and if you do gas in a choke, it just turns into the perfect kill box. The confusion effect on the gas gives you the time and space you need to take a better position and blast all of the priority targets without any resistance. The rot damage also helps take care of anything you just happen to clip while you're spraying down. Over on the bots, I always swap Gas Strike for Eagle Strafes to deal with tanks, factory striders, and most importantly, war striders, because they'll be the biggest problem we run into. To help deal with that, we also take in the Rocket Sentry, which makes quick work of pretty much any heavy the bots can throw at you by itself, but it also works insanely well on the bugs and the squids, taking out almost every large lad as long as you cover it. But most importantly, over anything else, the best part of the Rocket Sentry is our Voltron level event. This is the most stable turret to stand on top of and lets us take the high ground any place at any time. And while this thing's active, as long as you stand on top of it and keep blasting the chap before it can get to the turret, all reliable will make sure the rest of the job gets done. Then when we talk about the minigun itself, you cannot shoot it without the backpack equipped, so keep that in mind. And while you are shooting, it's best to do it in short bursts unless the next resupply is coming off cooldown. Then you can full blast your backpack and be the sentry turret you dreamed of. The main resupply brick will give you full ammo, supply backpack gives 400 a tap, and random ammo packs give you 200. But I made this build in mind without forcing you into burst mode. It's so that you can go full power fantasy and keep blasting your minigun as disrespectfully as you feel like. I've even managed to get over 20,000 shots fired in one game with this setup, but if you want to do that, you need to make sure that you lock in with a solid duo, and both of you need to take the supply backpack. The best way to do this is that one person calls it in and double taps the other one to max their ammo out. You do waste 50 shots, but that's perfectly fine. So after you call the supply backpack in, make sure you communicate for your friend to pick it up. They tap you twice and then they drop it, and then you pick it up and tap them twice so that both of you get your ammo maxed out. And even if they aren't running the minigun, they get maxed out on whatever they brought as well. Just don't forget to pick your minigun backpack back up. Another small tip is that if someone has the ultimatum, which they should for this build pretty much all the time, it's to let them reload one shot before they tap the second time, so that way they get both shots back when you do this. If you and your duo end up running the setup the same way, then you can just full blast the entire game without having to care about ammo at all, and it genuinely just feels way better to play in full power fantasy mode. This is something I've been trying to promote on stream basically ever since we started doing the team load tech way back when the Bile Titan surges were happening. I don't really make a ton of videos about it, but if you do want to try and lock in with people that have been trying to get the most kills possible and just do the coolest shit they can think of since the very beginning, make sure you join the Claydeen 8, the Discord server down below. But truly, the coolest possible thing we can do together with the minigun and the most peak interactions that we can have is in a 4-man squad locking in the FRV. This is definitively the most fun I've ever had on Helldivers. Rolling deep with the boys is hilarious every single time, and when you see 3 people leaning out of the car blasting with miniguns, it's literally just the coolest thing in the entire game. Just make sure that the person driving isn't me.
Oh.
Now, as for our armors, we have 2 setups that have basically perfect synergy for the minigun. First is the Heavy Fortified Devastator with the minion hat from Democratic Detonation. I personally rock the Scorpion hat from Dust Devils, but both really give that ultimate beefcake vibe. And when you go blasting with this recoil reduction armor, it really helps the dispersion on this thing in general, and saves you an insane amount of ammo by letting you hit way more shots when they matter. This is my favorite setup on all 3 factions because it opens up the medium range engagements to feel substantially better, and you look insanely cool. But our second setup also looks ridiculously good in the Jin Rose setup, and it just lets you aura farm by looking like a supervillain. The Doubt Killer armor and hat combined with the Cover of Darkness cape just looks unbelievably cool while you're running around, and looking good is the majority of the battle in the first place. The unflinching passive that comes with this is also, it's okay on the bots by letting you stay on target, but mainly we're taking this in for the hidden passive that the armor has for the maniacal laughter spam. Now, as for our weapons, I highly recommend taking in the crossbow. It has great AoE and stagger to help keep everything locked down for when you can't shoot the minigun, and gives you the perfect setup to kill all of the bug holes, fabricators, and UFOs, mainly because the grenades that we take in are notorious for bouncing out of Illuminate ships. The Eruptor also provides close to the same role, and one of the weapons that really surprised me was the new ARGL. It's great for just peeling some of the smaller stuff off of you that you can't really lock in on with the minigun all the time, and then the grenade launcher kind of function as a spawner closer as well. As for our sub weapon, we almost always take in the Ultimatum. It's perfect on the bugs for snap, charger, and Bile Titan removal, and that way you can just keep blasting with your minigun. Over on the bots, you're really going to need it for the War Striders, and it really helps with tanks and Factory Striders as well. And over on the Squids, I usually do swap to the Talon because it feels perfect with the setup to help remove any zombies or staff overseers that get too close that we can't really deal with. And finally, in the grenade slot, it's almost always gas, even on the bots. It just lets you spin things around on demand and slows the game down enough for you to make way better decisions and rip apart any weak spots that get exposed to you. Now, when we actually go start blasting dissidents, I don't think there's anything that beats mowing down a horde of zombies, and the Squids are going to be where the minigun truly shines. But you'll be burning through ammo faster than your aunt gets wasted at the Christmas party this year and has sex with your adopted cousin. Anyways, the main focus is to keep the voteless away from you with gas and play around chokes, or create a choke by throwing gas to your left and your right, letting you focus down anything that's in the middle. And more importantly, all of the biggest threats to your freedom flow. The Flying Overseer grenades are your biggest problem, so if you locked in with the recoil reduction armor, you'll be able to easily blast them out of the sky without any issues, and any harvester that appears is just going to evaporate. You also pretty much instantly kill meatballs with this thing, so you don't have to worry about those at all. And then over on the bugs, the biggest problem for you is going to be chargers, so make sure that if you see one, prioritize gassing it as soon as possible, so that way you can flip it around for some diabolical backshots. As for impalers, you cook them up pretty fast once they deploy, but the tentacles aren't dying with them again this update, so just watch out for that. And as for Bile Titans, you really want to swap to the Ultimatum to take them out as fast as possible, or just rely on your rocket sentry to blast them down. I also thought that the minigun would feel way better on Bile Spewer Seeds, but they have really large dead hitboxes like the Bile Titans do, so I think that if you want to have the best possible time with it, to just take it into the Hunter Seed, which is over on the Geological Survey, so you can just blast a ton of fast bugs, and it also has the highest spawn, so you can rack up a ton of kills. Now, most people, including myself, thought that the weakest faction for it was going to be the bots, but they only really feel bad when you have to deal with War Strider spam seeds. So if you lock in pyrotechs with strafes, they will come in super clutch for just helping to counter them. And if you want to have the best possible time on the bots, just head over to the spawn seed guide and pick either geological survey for the soldier bot and tank spam seed, or deliver the data missions for the Devastator, Berserker, Hulk seed. Both of these are prime real estate for your minigun, and only on rare occasions will you have to interact with any war striders on these seeds. Gas grenades are also super clutch for Hulks, and for some reason Hulk backshots almost instantly kill them with the minigun, and we love handing out backshots here. Now, I've also seen a lot of talk about what needs to improve about the minigun without talking about backshots even being part of the conversation, which I found a little suspicious. So after grinding about 50 games across all factions with it, kill farming like the Gatling Sentry I was meant to be, I had some ideas that I think would make it substantially more fun to use, but I think everyone kind of feels the same way about the brace animation lock when you start shooting. I really think that you should just be able to dive out of this, and then that should just stop you from shooting whenever you dive. And then I would also love to see them take this opportunity to make armor classes feel like more of an impactful choice for your loadout synergy. I think giving heavy armor the ability to slow walk while shooting at the cost of stamina would really give you that beefcake power fantasy that heavy armor looks like it should give you. I also think that just for cinematic reasons, you should be able to shoot down trees, just like in that first Predator movie where they're just blasting in the jungle. And I think that those three changes would pretty much just add everything I imagined the minigun would be without being really that overpowered. But I also like giving my opinions about meta changes and what I would like to see in the future over there. And I think that the ammo count is really the biggest hang up in that department. 750 just kind of feels like you run out in between resupplies too quickly, so taking that up to 1000 would make that feel better, and it would give you the abundance to not feel as bad blasting into dead enemy bodies. Like sometimes they're a little oversized, like the Bile Titans, the Spewers, the Hulks, and the tanks. It's kind of been like that forever. I don't think that they can necessarily fix it easily, so I think advocating for weapons to get buffed in ways that would feel good to deal with things like that is pretty much the best way to go, and it would also give you the full fantasy of the weapon that would let you disrespectfully blast into some dissident corpses, just ripping them to pieces and pushing them around. And then it's another just cool thing you can do with the minigun without feeling as bad for like ripping more of your ammo into it. I also think it is a little weird that it does 10 less damage than the regular MG, but I would like to see the ammo buff before a damage buff. And then when I was researching miniguns, the slowest fire rate was 2000 RPM with 6000 at the top end. And we have 1500 at a baseline, so I'm assuming it's the same reason they lowered the HMG's fire rate so you don't instantly burn out of ammo. But just for a fun option, I'd honestly just love to see a 6000 RPM toggle where even if I miss all my shots, it's just a stupid, dumb, mean thing that I could have that would just be like wildly ineffective, but it would be super, and that's really all that matters, even though it would be like kind of ridiculous. Now, I've also seen a lot of people asking for this thing to be buffed to armor penetration 4, but I do think that's a little bit too much for it to have all the time. I think that AP3 is basically perfect for it, but it did also make me think of something we brought up in a really old balance doc that leaned off of like a dev comment. I can't remember if it was like a text message or some interview, but it was around Starship Troopers, and it gave me a really fun idea where some weapons should gain +1 AP under 10 meters. I don't even know if the game could support that with the way that the bullets work, but I think it would give you the same feeling as Rico when he jumps on the back of the tanker bug and he blasts a hole in it and throws a grenade and it blows up. And when you think about like 10 meters in this game, it's also basically point blank, and it would just add a super fun element to more weapons that I think the minigun in particular would really benefit from. And after playing it on the acid planets to get that AP reduction on the enemies, it really locked that in for me because it gives you those like crazy last stand moments, the same kind you get with the HMG emplacement against Chargers and Hulks, where you kill them right before they get to you, or not, but most of the time it's or not with this thing, and it would feel amazing if you pulled it off with the big ass minigun, but most of the time you're just going to get ran over and die instantly, and I think that's a magical thing in itself. So, while this thing is clunky, I still think it's the most fun weapon in the game to go blasting with, and I hope this helps you deliver maximum DPS to the dissidents that would dare try and ruin our super holidays.